Hello and welcome to all of our viewers from around the world. I'm Fiona Lang-Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Well, I'm excited to be back with you here today again, talking about our upcoming GOLD Lactation Online Conference. That's at goldlactation.com. Why is that important? Well, it's going to come up really quickly here. Starting on April 4th, we have our opening keynote with Melissa Cole. That is going to be a free and open access presentation. So you can go to the website at goldlactation.com right now and register for that event. Of course, all of our other guest speakers are going to be there as well. You can check out everyone who is going to be a part of this conference, including Katherine Carroll, who is here with us today. Thank you so much for joining me here today, Katherine. It's just wonderful to have you here at our GOLD Lactation Conference.
Thank you very much, Fiona. It's been fabulous to prepare.
Yeah, I know. We're excited about this presentation because it hits some of those things that we often don't, we may not come across, we may not have the information. So, this presentation particularly is going to be very valuable. And I'll tell everyone right now the topic: providing enhanced lactation care for families following late miscarriage, stillbirth, neonatal, and infant death. So it's a big topic. I know you're going to be covering a lot of research and details in it. But I am really happy that you're sharing on it, because sometimes I think we get so busy doing other things in our life, but this is part of life. It does happen, life and death, it does happen to our families, and I want to be well prepared. So I look forward to talking in just a few minutes with you more about that topic. But for now, I think we have to tell people where you are in the world, because you're not where I am. And it's exciting to have you here today. So please introduce yourself formally, tell us where you are in the world, and of course, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, so yes, I'm Katherine Carroll. I live and work on Ngunnawal country in Canberra, Australia, and it's Australia's capital city. It's a beautiful part of the world with 4 seasons, and currently we're in autumn, which is my favourite. The trees are turning and the hot air balloons are rising above our beautiful Lake Burley Griffin. And yes, I work at the Australian National University, which is right in the middle of Canberra, the city, and I'm in the School of Sociology here.
Yeah, so we were talking offline about your very interesting background and what you do, and and how this has become part of some of the care and that you now obviously do for folks. So, but can you kind of backtrack a little bit and tell me kind of where and how did you get to this point in your life?
Yeah, sure. So I've been studying human milk banking and donor human milk from a sociology perspective now for more than a decade, both in Australia and in the US. And I've done extensive work in neonatal intensive care, spending a lot of time doing what's called ethnography, which is observing how the staff in NICU deliver care to premature babies and how families fit into that space. And so donor milk obviously has played an increasing role in NICU care over the last decade or more. And actually coming to the perspective of parents and donors in particular, I came across the issue of bereaved donation. And as you said in your introduction, bereaved donation just isn't spoken about. Lactation after loss just isn't spoken about enough. And so when I came across a mother who herself had a baby die at 24 weeks gestation and who had no formal help with her lactation care as she came home from the hospital, and how her story unfolded was that the milk bank actually provided critical lactation care when she reached out in an awful situation. And her story was so compelling, I thought, this needs to change. I need to research this further. And so in 2013, I put forward a pilot research grant, which was funded. And I looked at this issue in a small part of Australia. And the evidence that we generated was that lactation is incredibly meaningful and it needs to be attended to for bereaved parents, and donation can also be a very healing act for some bereaved families. And so that led me to putting in a huge research grant for the Australian Research Council back in 2018, which was successful, and the rest is history. So what I'm going to be talking about is 3 years worth of research work, working with bereaved families as well as the health professionals who care for them.
Wow, that's amazing. And boy, that is a lot to unpack. I was just thinking of all these questions coming up in my head now, like, hi, what, how, where, when, even the fact that, that in itself, it's such a big topic, having a neonate in the NICU, and then, potentially having then a death to deal with. There's just so much for a family to unpack, but also implicates, like you said, the professional themselves too. There's so much going on in order to provide care. And then, perhaps, it doesn't, the lactation component of that just is not highlighted. Have you been surprised in, you mentioned this story that you had, but have you also been surprised the lack of resources that professionals have had, in their toolboxes, like, as you've journeyed on this part of life?
For sure. And that's why I'm so excited that we have been asked to contribute to this program, because we are going to be giving tools to health professionals to add to their toolkits. So I'm hoping that it's quite an empowering presentation, even though it's on a very sad topic.
Right.
I'm really hopeful that the tools, the practical guidelines, the little tips that we will spend the last about 20 minutes of the presentation on will equip health professionals well with being able to approach bereaved families about lactation and bereaved donation. So I'm really hoping that we cover a lot of research ground, but that the last third of the presentation really is empowering, so that we can create positive impact for families who are in need of this assistance, indeed.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than being in a situation, particularly like this situation, where you lack this, skills and you don't have any tools at all. And it might be something that doesn't come, obviously, hopefully it doesn't come up very often. Some of us will go on this lactation journey and maybe never see it, although of course with, late miscarriage, that's something that comes up as well. But I think this is fantastic. This is what our participants are always asking for, Katherine, is that they want hands-on skills and tools that they can put into place right away. So I know that this is going to be valuable even for the listeners right now. I know you're thinking about it. Do I want to attend this session? Yes, you do. Now you hear it. That this is actually going to equip you immediately. You'll be able to, have these tools available to you and have things that you can put into effect. Katherine, can you tell me a little bit about the collaborative work that you've been doing in this? You mentioned that you're working in the US and in Australia. So how have you found the differences working with people around the world, and recognize the importance in this topic?
Well, I think first of all, people are always willing to help with this topic. As soon as I start speaking about this topic, in no matter what sort of group of people I'm speaking to, most of the time people will come forward and say, you know what, my cousin, my partner, me, someone, my colleague has had this experience. And I think there's a great silence around miscarriage, stillbirth, and infant loss. Mm-hmm. And we don't feel comfortable talking about it in society. And as a result, we think it's not as common as what it is. And we generally all know someone who's been touched by this. And lactation and infant death coupled together, we have a double silence, if you like. Mm-hmm. And so once across cultures, whenever I start talking about this, people's hearts open and people want to step forward and help. And to give a plug, for example, in Australia to the Australian Breastfeeding Association, they have been amazing working with our latest research. They've completely redone their online resources to ensure that their information is comprehensive in terms of offering both health professionals and mothers a comprehensive choice of how lactation can be managed, how meaning can be made from expressed breast milk, how you can approach bereaved donation as a topic to talk about. So the ABA, Australian Breastfeeding Association, has been amazing at updating their resources. And we find that people are very willing, organisations are very willing to be open to enhancing their information so that it can get out to more people.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I'm just thinking right now, there's people listening to this call right now who are part of associations. Many of us, are on boards and part of associations that, can equip, professionals and mothers. We know online resources are sometimes the first place that parents will go, in a situation that is dire, and, to look up online. So it's going to be really valuable for those listening, even right now, to think ahead, to make sure that they are also up to date, because we've got a leading example, as you've said, with the Australian Breastfeeding Association, have been able to do that. And that's, of course, through, the amazing work that you've done. So I'll look forward to hearing some feedback, I think, Katherine, during your presentation. I know we'll have an opportunity for you and I to do a Q&A at the end of the presentation, where we'll answer some of the questions from the participants, but it'll also maybe give us some, idea of, who are part of associations as well, and they can get them up to date on the specifics that you're talking about as well. That's truly very exciting. It's glad to hear that, collaboratively, folks have come together so easily as well. I wanted to share with you, Katherine, and of course our participants, that this collaborative type of work has come up over and over again in different capacities, of how we really do need to lean in together. And so it's great to hear that that's been such a positive response for you in your environment. It's very exciting.
I think also I'd like to say, when you asked about the cross-cultural comparisons, I think something that the US is really leading the way in, from my observations, that Australia could actually take a leaf from the Human Milk Banking Association of North America milk banks, many of whom have designated bereaved donor programs, web pages on their home, on their home pages. They have a designated spot where bereaved families can look. And so donation isn't everyone's solution, definitely not.
Right.
Okay, but for those where it is, having that special space, that the language is tailored to bereaved families, where the information about suppression or expression, pumping, etc., where it's tailored to bereaved families, is really important. And I'm advocating in Australia to have a look at some of those websites in the US, on milk banks websites, and have a look and see what we can learn also from the US. So I think there's a lot going on to inform across both sides of this big globe.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. Well, it's not too local to me, but I do have a milk bank in my province. And so this is my thought pattern is I want to go and have a look and see what the resources are. I know the person that runs it. I'm going to check it out. I think what you said about language too. I mean, language does change over the time, and we need to be very cognizant of that, so that the messaging is clear and understood. And of course, kind, that's the thing, to make sure that folks are going to reach out to the resources that are available to them. Wow, I am getting goosebumps, because this has really got me thinking about all the things that, I want to do, and I hope that it has for our viewers as well. But there's more. That's the thing, there is more. So Katherine, you're going to be with us live at our GOLD Lactation Conference. And I really, honestly, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you uncovered, what you discovered, and now what is in place in order to support the professionals, so that we can, again, support the families. Thank you so much. It's just wonderful. And thank you for taking the time to putting this presentation together.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really excited to join everyone in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for those listening in, you can go to the website right now, goldlactation.com. And Katherine Carroll is going to be here talking about providing enhanced lactation care for families following late miscarriage, stillbirth, neonatal, and infant death. Thank you again, Katherine, for joining us here today. And thank you to all of our viewers for joining us. And I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye for now, everyone.